Well, our hearty thanks go out to Louise Hall and her team of absolutely passionate and committed supporters down there at Suncoast. I was absolutely bowled over by the amount of knowledge that this lady has with regard to the sale. And also incredible news that the Samanga Kamala movie will be premiered at Suncoast on the Wednesday prior to the running of the Vodacom Durban July. But getting back to you, Kevin, now, we've picked out a couple other lots that are worth taking a look at. And one of them that has incredible prospect is the Son of Ideal World, Scottish Briar, lot number 63. Ideal World getting his first Grade 1 winner this year with Smart Cool winning for Alec Laird, and the colours of the late Bridget Oppenheimer, now of course managed by Jessica Slacker. It was a very, very touching moment for Alec Laird.
Yeah, it was. And I think, Maritzfontein have got a very, very strong contingent here. And I think they could end up possibly being the top vendor at the sale. They've sent the balance of the horses that they're selling off this year. And yeah, it's very, I think a lot of the breeders specifically pinpoint the Suncoast sale for particular horses. The Alchemy, I know, they take certain horses and they just put them specifically for this race. And
but
I think
it gives
a lot
them time. I mean,
yeah.
Not every horse has got Speedy 2-year-old stamped all over his forehead.
No, yeah, it just gives them time to mature, and it's a nice place to sell horses.
Well, the interesting thing for me is that it's a dawning of a new era, because with the decision to become commercially orientated rather than in-house, people now have access to this incredibly well sought after blood from Maritzfontein, which has hitherto, this particular dawning, been reserved only for the people that own Maritzfontein, and people haven't really had access to it unless they've bought a horse in training, which is very seldom the case.
Yeah, no, I think that's really improved our breeding stock and given access to everyone else to get those really well-bred horses.
Now, the thing about KwaZulu-Natal that has been quite sad is that the balance of power has definitely shifted to the Cape because of this foreign investment, because huge players like Marcus Jooste and Klaver Vlei have invested vast fortunes down in the Robertson area, and of course Gaynor Rupert and Mary Slack is in Wilgeborgsdrift, and I mean I can go on and on and on. And I believe very exciting news with regard to Sabine Plattner's operation, which we'll divulge shortly. But the point is that there's been a dire shortage of exciting stallions. It's really gravitated around Summerhill and their relationships with foreign investors. But what I find very exciting is the arrival of a horse called Noble Tune at the stud of Mike and Tanya McCarty, which of course is Rathmore's stud, and he has just got the most staggering pedigree. And to boot, since he's been out here, his son Honor Code was victorious on the night that American Pharaoh won the Belmont in a scintillating 133.18 in the Met Mile, which is incredible news for them.
Yeah, I think the Natal breeders have been on the back foot for a while, but I think they're starting to come through. The introduction of Cape Town Noir and Lingari.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And, Visionaire is starting to get some nice winners. So I think they're getting the stallions. And I think, the wheel turns. So I think there's hope on the horizon.
Well, I can think of worse plans than to domicile yourself in KwaZulu-Natal for the week preceding the Vodacom Durban July and the week succeeding, because you've got Mickey Goss's Summerhill Stallion Day, which is just one of the greatest days out. I mean, an entrepreneur second to none, and such good fare and rekindling great relationships. It's an amazing day.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I attended it for the first time last year, and it really was superb. And everybody goes there. So you get a cross-section of the whole racing public.
Okay, now here comes a curveball. We know that Curveball has got progeny that will be sold in the sale. He's an incredibly bred horse, but I have to ask you this question. Being a pedigree man, you have to now factor in a thing called form.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular fancy for this year's Vodacom Durban July?
There are three horses that I fancy. Majmu, Punta Arenas for sentimental reasons because of Stan Ellie,
yes,
and Legal Eagle. Those three I like. Futura, I've always liked Futura, but I just think that those three, it's quite difficult But those are the three
Yeah,
that
I
I
think,
fancy.
look, I mean, I'm 100% behind you, with the exception of maybe Punta Arenas, not because he's not classy enough to win. I mean, there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house if he were to win for Stan Ellie. Notwithstanding the fact that the Gravel 1900, sponsored by Betting World, I must add, hasn't exactly been the best supplier of Vodacom Durban July winners. I think I can think of two in the last 20 or 30 years. Bold Silvano was one.
Yes.
And a horse called Lightning Shot was another.
Yeah.
But that was back in 1977, I think.
Yeah, no, that was a while ago.
But I mean, he is in the pink of health. Stan's never had him better.
Yeah, no, and I think it would be nice if it did win. But again, it's a sentimental choice.
Okay, housekeeping. The sale takes place on the 2nd and 3rd. Those are the 2 days preceding the Vodacom Durban July. And then after the Vodacom Durban July on Monday is another sale. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Monday sale is the Eldora Mare sale, the Mare, Weaning and Mix sale at Eldora Stud.
Just take that again because I can edit that.
All right. The sale is the KZN Mare, Weaning and Mix sale at Eldora Stud on Monday. It features the full dispersal of Des Scott's mares, as well as 22 yearlings who couldn't get onto the KZN sale, and they will all be eligible for the KZN Million Race on July Day in 2016.
So you don't have to come back from Mickey's Day. You just have to stay up in Summerhill,
stay there,
drive down the road
to stay a couple of days extra, and you could get perhaps an even bigger bargain than Louis the King.
And then finally, from a point of view of occupancy, obviously there has to be a win-win situation for Suncoast. They've confided in me that they haven't done it for the simple reason that they want to get bums in beds. Obviously, they would like that. But is there a concerted effort from a TBA perspective to enlighten people that this is a world-class facility to stay in, close proximity to Gravel Racecourse? And I mean, who would want to be anywhere else than right on the beach?
Yes, so we really want to promote this venue. You know, we've taken a lot more rooms than we've previously taken, and next year we want to take even more. But I mean, Suncoast have been a magnificent sponsor for us here. They go out of their way to assist us in whichever way they can, and it really is a very, very mutually beneficial partnership.
We've been covering the Suncoast KwaZulu-Natal Yearling Sale, which takes place on the 2nd and 3rd of July, prior to South Africa's most famous and heritage-filled horse race, the Vodacom Durban July, of course. But it's now time to talk about a very, very emotional issue, and it's about our good friend Paul Lafferty. I cannot ever remember seeing people rally together for a more worthy cause. It doesn't matter who you are out there, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or on Winning Ways or wherever you are in South Africa. Everybody loves and has been enticed to laugh by the one and only Paul Lafferty, a great character, one of the finest human beings that you'll ever meet. And at the end of the day, it's not just about Paul Lafferty's illness, it's about the racing industry taking care of its own. Johnny Panis, joining us in the studio right now, a man who's suffered the misfortune of having his career prematurely terminated through injury. You've got time on your hands and you've come up with an absolutely amazing endeavor. Johnny, tell us about it.
Well, basically after I saw the Facebook posts and doing the golf day that they're doing next week at Mount Edgecombe, I thought to myself, I have got a lot of time on my hands, not being employed at the moment, and I wanted to see if we can arrange a race day up in Turfentine, and probably try and see if we can then roll it through to each centre in the country, possibly a meeting at Kimberley, meeting in Natal, meeting in PE, and a meeting in Cape Town, and try and get small to medium businesses to buy races, and to then the proceeds go to Paul Lafferty.
Well, first of all, before we get any further with that, because obviously you've already contacted Pumalela, Stephen Karam is already working with it, but the reality is that you've had a long, deep look in the mirror with regard to your own career. You weren't, let's be honest, you weren't in Pierce Stradham's league, you weren't in Jeff Lloyd's league or any of the other top jockeys, but you were a very, very hard-working journeyman jockey that was passionate about what you did, and the next minute your life came to an end, and you're not allowed to work as a result of the policy in place.
That's exactly it. With the policy I've got with Old Mutual, I'm not allowed to work as they will then deduct my earnings from another source per month. So actually doesn't make sense to do anything as far as work is concerned.
Well, you know, they say money isn't everything, but if you haven't got it, it's a terrible thing. And that's the situation that Paul will find himself in, because we all know that chemotherapy is an astronomically expensive medical encumbrance. And therefore, with a hospital plan, you're always going to fall short. You
are going to fall short. You know, it's, with the hospital plan, you know, the doctors charge over medical aid rates. And, you know, when that comes into play, you are going to find yourself with that shortfall. And that is why we all need to rally together as a racing community and South Africans as we try and put as much on the table for him as possible. You just never know. I mean, that's exactly why Paul Lafferty's philosophy to life is just live every moment. Let's not be reckless, but he has made more people laugh than Joe Parker, Mel Miller, and the whole of the Biltong and Potros team put together. He is the funniest and wittiest, well-read man that I've ever met in my life. We only have to look at him when he's got that beard on and he just starts looking at you with those eyes, and you can't stop it. You can't stop laughing. Imagine him with that beard off. But Johnny, I just wanted to say thank you very much indeed for taking this time to basically put your money where your mouth is. Instead of sitting there and saying, I think we should do this, I think we should do that, you are doing something. We salute you, and we'll just be following very closely on every aspect of social media. And of course, Teletrack has always been very, very warm in a way in which it's embraced people's endeavours, whether it's Nico Kritsiatis or David Mollett or whoever else has fallen on hard times. That's what this family is all about. That's exactly it. I have got a meeting with Stephen Karam on Tuesday. We will start pulling things apart and putting things together and ideas across and trying to get this thing on the road and going forward with it. Well, this is a very ongoing process. Paul Lafferty will have to be in hospital, out of hospital, having chemo. It's terribly, terribly debilitating. I happen to have encountered a few people who have been through this, and there's probably nothing more debilitating than going through chemotherapy. So our hearts and our minds and our prayers are with you, Paul, and your family, and Johnny Panis leading the Gauteng endeavour to try and make sure that we can raise as much money as possible to make your life a lot more bearable than it is right now. Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us on another edition of the Lifeblood of Racing, a shortened edition, but nevertheless covering the endeavour of Bloodstock South Africa to bring you the opportunity to buy new stock. Hopefully you too can win the Vodacom Durban July next year, or the Million Mile, or any of the other races that are associated with the incentive scheme from Bloodstock South Africa. From myself, Andrew Bond, Kevin Woolwood, and of course John Panis, we thank you very much for joining us this evening and look forward to the next episode of the Lifeblood of Racing. Good night.